This is measuring the signal-to-noise ratio of the TV of tomorrow. The group of people who are about to come on are some of the leading minds in our industry. They analyze this space all the time. They're passionate thinkers, and they don't put up with BS. They like to separate the wheat from the chaff, and they will certainly give a truthful opinion. So I'd like to welcome to the stage the moderator, the very proactive Jeremy Toman, who's the CEO, the new CEO of Digit, a great second screen technology company. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Got all my technology prepped. This is most of the technology I'll need. So we have a great panel, and I'm just going to ask them to come on up. Where'd you go? Come on up, guys. So our topic, as Tracy said, bottom line, our topic today is, people want to blog about TV. We're seeing reports. We're seeing a lot of stuff going on. What's hype? What's noise? What's reality? Do people want all of the services that this industry is trying to bring them? Is that industry push? Is it consumer pull? Is TV dying? I think that it's been 4 minutes since the last TV is dying blog post was written. So we're going to talk about things like that. Pro tip, no. So I'm going to hand it over to the panelists to introduce themselves, and then we're going to go through a bunch of these topics and just see where the conversation goes. We'll have a lot of time for Q&A. So my name is Jeremy Toman. I'm CEO of a company called Digit. We're building a next-generation social-enabled TV guide experience for iPads, but that's enough about my company. I've been in the space for a while. I was at Mediabolic, now part of Rovi. We were in the original days of DLNA and UPnP and that kind of digital home stuff. I was also early at Sling Media, VP of products for the Sling Box, and then consulted with companies like Boxy, Clicker, and Voodoo, and now I'm back in startup land. So that's enough about me. Brad, why don't you give an intro of yourself?
Sure. I'm Brad Pello. I'm the CEO of TVOT. My background actually started in enterprise software, a company called Folio that was acquired by LexisNexis, and then I went on to found Ancestry.com. I retired out of that experience to become a producer, something I'd wanted to do since I was a teenager, and I finally did it. Produced 3 feature films and a television show, and became a frustrated producer because what I realized is, unlike the world of the web, I didn't know my audience. They couldn't talk back to me. I couldn't address them. And so TV was next. And our business is probably best known for the most popular TV guide on the iOS platform by the company name TV. We have millions of downloads and users. We also have become a platform in the last couple of years, and we power sites like AOL, Huffington Post, Entertainment Weekly, and we'll announce this summer our first MSO partnerships.
Leslie, why don't you go next?
Okay, good morning. Am I on?
You're on.
I should not break into Volare right now. I'm Leslie Ellis. I'm a technical writer, mostly in the cable television field, and my specialty is making engineering topics more approachable for people with less of a natural interest than engineers. And I'm based out of Denver, and I'm a beekeeper.
I'm sorry, what was the last bit?
Beekeeper.
How's your colony doing? I hear we're having
Very
trouble.
well. They made it through the winter.
Oh, good.
I'd like to follow up on that bee colony later if we have time. Interesting. I'm Sam Pemberton. I'm Chief Executive of Softail. Brief history is we did a very early banner advertising on teletext, and I was involved with that with some of my colleagues that are in the audience, and that made a profitable interactive service, teletext service, for many broadcasters around the world, not here in the US, but in the rest of the world, and span off a company in 2001 and grown that a bit, and we do play out and other bits and pieces for interactive television for all the main MSOs, Comcast, Time Warner Cable, and so on, Verizon and others. And we're very excited about hybrid space at the moment, so that's what we're doing a lot on the second screen and that type of stuff. So.
Great. All right, so let's go straight to the one that I think is a little meaty, a little fun to get going on. How many people in the room read a piece by Henry Blodgett recently decrying the death of the TV industry? Really? Okay, so for those of you who didn't read it, basically TV as we know it is doomed, mostly because of the newspaper industry and the way they died and how revenue went up and up and up and all of a sudden cratered. And all these signs are taking place, how people are, cord cutting and trimming and all these different things, and therefore, panic time. I'm not necessarily in agreement with that statement, but I think, Sam, why don't you kick us off? What do you feel? Are we dying?
What? Are we dying? Well, all of us will eventually, I suppose. But in terms of television, I mean, there's big, in terms of that article, that blog, there's big differences between the printed press and television. One of the main ones is that physically the printed press was printed press. Television is all about content, and the old content is king adage has been overused for a long time, but it's true. And I think that what we found is companies, we saw Tony Warner's presentation yesterday, Comcast innovating in a huge way, doing some really fabulous things. TV Everywhere is one of them, Catch-Up TV is another. And the operators aren't standing still, and nor are the programmers. They're giving us TV when we want it, as we want it. So when I say TV, I mean, it depends what you define TV as. Is linear television, where we have 3 or 4 or 7 channels, dead? Well, probably, but that led to it. We had the explosion of satellite channels, of cable channels, and so on. So I think and the main difference that was probably missed is that while television has evolved in a major way, the printed press was a little bit, it found it a little bit more difficult maybe to do that. The other thing is that there's a lot of stats on the long tail of the printed press where actually there's actually a growth area where the long tail is really helping to drive that side of the printed press too. So I think it was a really interesting article in terms of debate, but I think it was obviously biased, but it was meant for debate, I think.
Sure. Brad, comments on the
Yeah, I think you have to consider, my view of that article was that it was all about MSOs and really the packagers, because the argument was that would get access to our information when we wanted, like Anthony from Roku talked about. But the reality is that these, unlike printed newspapers that were very localized, these MSOs, particularly here in the US, are very, very large. They have broad reach. They're essentially giant banks with some infrastructure, some pipes to deliver their content. And so we should really think of them as packagers. And they have the bankroll to continue to innovate and deliver those packages however we choose to. Now, there are some business models that we all know are changing in that process, but I think the MSOs as we know them today will continue to be major, major players in this space. I don't think it's death at all, but I think there will be some, natural reactions as outside pressures to their business models begin to apply.
And that's a positive thing. And I think if Tony was here, I'm guessing he would probably say, I can't obviously talk for him, but that pressure and that competition is great. Capitalism is great. We're here today because of it. We've done so much as an industry, and a lot of that is because of threats and pressures and competitive nature. We've got competitors here that we work with and compete against, and it's great. I love that. And we all want to beat each other and all that sort of stuff, and in a hopefully in an ethical and friendly way and all that good stuff. But that it's driven the industry so much, that change, I think. Leslie, you.
Well, I would just say, as someone who writes for a living, and any of the rest of us in the room who write for a living, when you write for a living, your editors often encourage you to put words like death and blood and stuff in the lead so that you get more clicks and so that more people
blood
watch
on the
it.
Screen.
So I don't think it's dying. And just to comment on Brad's comment about the aggregators and cable, and this is difficult for me because I'm half Pollyanna on my mother's side, and I'm half twisted skeptic on my father's side. So every time I say this, which has been a lot lately, I want to punch myself in the face. But I've been watching cable television try to launch new products for 26 years. And the words glacial always come to play, right? Why does it take so long to launch new products in cable? But in this last year, even since last year's TVOT and last year's cable show, there's been such acceleration in launches, and I think you heard it from Tony yesterday, that it's, well, my grandfather used to say, if you're not growing, you're dying, and I think we're all still growing, so. Sorry, Henry Blodgett.
It's a great point. So let's keep that going. Actually, I heard an interesting thing from a large cable company that for them to innovate on their on-screen display in their set-top boxes takes about a 6-month QA cycle. So just imagine that. To make a change with the color they're going to use is a 6-month QA cycle because you have...
It's 18 months.
Well, I heard just the QA
days.
part, not even the development. Now, per your point, look at the Xfinity app, right? Revving. So, kind of quick answer, do you guys feel that, in general, do you feel that the cable guys, telco, satellites, service providers in general, are they in a rapid innovation mode? Are they leading? Are they following? Where do you guys see them?
Well, first of all, I think cable and maybe satellite and so on are held to a much higher bar than other medium. We allow buffering and we'll pauses and all that stuff. I watched something last night in the room. I was watching some soccer, and there's some my iPad's there, and I just forgive it for doing that because whereas if I was watching ESPN HD and it was doing that, I'd be like, wow, who do I call? So we're held to different bars in terms of innovation. To Leslie's point, I think that the amount of innovation that's happening in the cable space and in other spaces is amazing now compared to, what did you say, 26 years ago. Certainly, I've witnessed just how fast we can get things done now compared to before. I'm not saying it's easy, but then again, you've got tens and hundreds of millions of viewers and certainly tens of millions of households to please, and you have to guarantee that you're not crashing out set-top boxes, you're not creating a bad experience. Whereas, when we're fortunate enough just to be working on the second screen, maybe the quality of service just doesn't have to be quite as high. And if the app crashes out every couple of weeks or whatever, it's not that serious a deal. If every Comcast household crashed set-top box all at once during the Super Bowl, can you imagine? I mean, it would just be, I'm almost guaranteed we'd be involved. But it is a different threshold, and so I think it's natural that specs take longer to come through cable labs, but do cable labs do a good job? Yeah, absolutely. You look at EBIF and the number of households you can hit to. It's impressive. It's different. And it's the old adage or idiom, horses for courses.
That's by the way, audience, I'm going to keep you involved. So those of you on your iPads, you're going to miss out on some good stuff. So
Can I just put some perspective on that? It was the
Sure,
question is, are cable people leading? So if you look at how this evolved over cable, it started in the 50s with people getting town by town, franchise by franchise. And so for that reason, the operators do not compete with one another. So there's a sense of collegiality amongst them, and they tend to divvy up the tech projects. So if you're asking, like, are they in lead? I would say Comcast is the most in the lead, because a few years ago, they made two important strategic decisions. One was to take back their analog spectrum for digital use, and the other was to go with DOCSIS 3. And for those two reasons, they're way far ahead on all IP, getting to all IP, and the types of technologies that are providing the service velocity.
Fair point. So to this point, innovation, et cetera, if your cable company, which many of you who live here is probably Comcast or telco, et cetera, if you had the chance to switch your set-top box to be in beta, so in other words, you're getting all the latest features, but it might just crash during the Super Bowl, how many of you would take them up on that?
This is the wrong audience to ask, though. Right? It's a bit like yesterday's debate, right? The reason Hydra didn't win. Just kidding.
Well, because I'm always curious where the innovation should be pushing versus pulling, and I don't think it's the wrong audience, because at the end of the day, when we watch TV, we all go back to people on the couch. So I want to take the conversation to the next topic, and Brad, since your company's in there, I'm going to enter the second screen. That's a big topic. I actually hate the term because it's such a generic term for so many things. So let's first start with. Where do you see the biggest opportunities in the second screen space right now?
I think the biggest opportunity is to figure out how to get the voice of the audience involved in television. Last week, I was with one of our board members, Carlton Hughes, who is the producer of Lost, and we know what a phenomenon that was in the social sphere. The timing was perfect. Twitter was of age, and we were all involved in this show that we couldn't wait to figure out.
By the way, I never watched it, and I don't want any spoilers.
Okay, no spoilers here. But he made the comment to me because we were showing him some of our new advances, and he said, the irony is that as storytellers, the way a story is communicated to the user is not necessarily the way it's received. And what we learned with Lost is that what the audience played back to us was so different in a good way, a positive way, that it engaged us as storytellers. And so the last thing he said I want to do is adulterate the experience by producing for the second screen. I want to leave the second screen to be the audience feedback loop. Give me the primary screen, I'll tell my version of the story. Let's figure out how to engage the audience. And I know that means different things. That may not even answer your question, Jeremy, but the ways in which we as an audience can engage with each other while we're watching and engage with the storytelling or news gathering process we're watching, to me, that's the big opportunity. And I think what we're doing today is just scratching the surface. I appreciate what Anthony just presented, but it's those things are kind of table stakes. That's kind of what everyone will do. But what will really be the epiphany where we say to ourselves, as we would have, a few years ago, what's Twitter? Why would I care about a status update? We're going to have this conversation in a couple of years. We weren't thinking that way.
Sam, thoughts on social on the second screen?
Yeah, I think in answer to your first question, that it's engagement, isn't it? I think some people don't want to engage, of course, and we shouldn't force it, but some people do, and I think Rebecca, again, I mentioned her yesterday, but Rebecca Lim was saying that the sci-fi crowd can get nerdy in a good way and want to engage a lot. What Showtime did, Dave Prizeman's group with the martial arts, it's a sector that, wanting to engage, and so the stats were great. But not everyone does. But I think it's the opportunity to engage the audience and to bring them more into the experience and then share. We all do it. We all Facebook and LinkedIn and all the other good stuff that we're supposed to do. And we can bring that to the television experience. So there's no reason that television shouldn't be just as engaging and as social and dynamic as any other medium is. And I think it is becoming that way. It's just becoming naturally that way.
I want a counterpoint.
Go.
No, from you.
Oh, you got it.
I want it.
I got a counterpoint for everything. Well, okay.
I don't want to argue
if you look at, if I could modify your question a little bit, instead of calling it second screen, call it companion app. If you look at that body of work, it's triple fragmented already, right? Are we doing it on the TV, or are we doing it on the tablet? Are we doing it on a show, or are we doing it on an ad? Are we doing it via watermarking, or are we doing it via fingerprinting? And you could even take it to, are you going to fingerprint or watermark the audio or the video feed? So that's 4 fragmentations right there. So I think the opportunity is for the people who can aggregate all this stuff and make it happen in the background. Like there was a lot of talk yesterday about, let's say I watch 15 TV shows, so I'm going to download an app for every single one of those shows? Or is it going to happen in the background with things like eBIF and deterministic signaling and my happy little weird world?
But what app, so
I totally agree.
I'll take my statement. I think there's no one app. I'm going to be blunt here. I think that it's impossible to have the one TV app. I think it just doesn't fit because I can count off a list of 7 different completely types of TV shows where our experiences are so different. So how do we get there? Is it a basis of technology that all these different apps have to get? My colleague Adam uses the term virtual coffee table to describe that phenomenon. Is that instead of having 15 remotes, I got 15 apps. Where do you think we can go with this?
Doesn't this seem kind of familiar, right? So television started out, I grew up in Philadelphia, channels 3, 6, and 10. And then there was the UHF channels, and then there was the cables, and all of a sudden there's more and more channels, more and more channels. What do you need? You need a guide. You need somebody to aggregate it all together. So I don't know if I'm answering your question now, but the model is known, it's familiar. Someone has to pull it all together.
Well, I mean specifically in the companion space. She's just trying to help.
To me, this goes back to what is the problem, right? What is the problem that you're trying to solve? I could see I could see scenarios for all of the different things that you've talked about, but I'm kind of wondering where you guys are going.
Is it a problem? Is it a problem we're trying to solve?
Great question.
I don't know if it is a problem we're trying to solve. It's more of an opportunity to engage the viewer and increase the brand increase the brand interaction. I mean, I'm coming at it from the interactivity side of things more. I don't know it's a problem as such, but I think there's a desire, certainly in certain groups, to interact or to engage. Interact is a bad word, I think. It's more about engage. And we can offer that opportunity, but we shouldn't be pushing it and forcing people to. Some people only want the 3 channels. You know, I only watch maybe 3. Sky Sports 1, 2, and 3, ESPN 1, 2.
I think that within the sphere of companion apps, broadly defined, there are specific problems we have to solve. So, and we know these already, but you know that companion app should solve the discovery problem. Better discovery will be really important to solve. Control, so selectivity. You know, as much as I don't like the idea of switching apps when I watch shows, I also don't like switching remotes, frankly. You know, when I want to VOD something versus when I want to watch it linearly. So, you know, controlling the device seamlessly, I think, is a really important problem that we have to solve as an industry. When we get to the social aspect and to the whole idea of engagement, it is different for different shows and it's different for different demographies. It is different. And I think there's opportunity for different applications and experiences. It won't be one size fits all. But as an industry, we have to solve the business models around those experiences. So for example, if we're going to monetize, continue to monetize with advertising, there needs to be a common industry standard and or platform that regardless of what app, second screen experience I'm using while watching TV, it gives me the control, the discovery, and the monetization models, just as Apple has done with iTunes. As a developer, if I couldn't submit to a marketplace and monetize that experience, you know, where would we be today?
All right, let's take this to next place. I think we're good on companion apps. Let's talk a good signal/noise question. Sam, maybe you'll start us off. Cord cutting. Is there something happening? Is it actual cord cutting? Is it cord trimming? Cord never getting?
I bet you'll be better at answering this than me with all your
I mean,
got the stats, but I can.
I want your opinion regardless. I'm going to come to you one way or another.
Yeah.
I'll go fast. Last summer, or maybe it was the summer before, I started to get concerned about all these proclamations that the cable industry or the multi-channel video industry was going to be dead because of all this over-the-top and people cutting the cord. So I built a little over-the-top lab in my back room at my office just to see, like, what these people who cut the cord, what's it all about? And so this is what I say to people if they say, my cable bill's too high, I'm going to cut the cord. I say, first make a list of everything you like to watch and make sure it's available on all those other devices because chances are pretty high that it won't be.
So do you think that we are about to hit a wave of cord cutters, cord trimmers, cord never getters, or the world stays the same?
Cord expansion, I think it is.
Thank you, Sam.
I think, sorry. Just
Please.
Tag team. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, what the stats I look at look as though people are just expanding their offer. So I've got Netflix, I've got Cablevision, I've got Sky in the UK, I've got, I've got all these different ways of consuming, and I kind of use them in different ways. I haven't turned any of them off. I just happen to have more. And actually, I think that's what's happening a lot. I'm not saying that there won't be cord cutting. Of course there will. I mean, there always has been as well. You know, people fall on hard times. They get rid of their cable or subscription or something like that. But, you know, is it going to be, suddenly we're offering internet television and so it's all gone, forget about it. No, it's not that way, I don't think at all.
I work with a team of engineers that not one of them subscribes to cable or satellite, not one of them. And when I realized that, I asked them the question, why? Why can you live without sports? Well, first of all, none of them really are super sports fans. When they want to watch something, they usually watch it socially. They go to someone else's house that has it. But these are all 20-somethings. But they've grown up in a day and age where they've learned to turn to the internet for the content they want. That's the world they know. They don't even remember over-the-air television. And so I think it really depends on who you're talking to. I know that my household can't live without traditional television, my parents' household, but these 20-somethings, and again, now they're engineers, so they're not necessarily your average, but I was surprised that there was not one of them that uses a packaged television service.
Interesting. All right, a quick audience. Do you think that we're about to hit some big wave of massive cord cutting, cord trimming? In other words, shaving your bill down a bit? Cord never getting? All right. A lot of nodding heads, not too many arms going.
Cord expansion.
Good to know.
Where you get more and more stuff.
All right. So let's flip around to another topic that I think I read about every 4 hours or so, that the future of TV interfaces is all about gestures and voice control. And I'll just kind of posit a theory, and then I'll let you guys take it from there. So voice control obviously makes sense. Being able to say things like, are there any Oscar-winning movies on TV tonight? Or show me a list of everything with Tom Cruise in it. Totally makes sense. It's a very natural thing. I don't necessarily think it's a replacement of any other interface. I just think it's a natural way to do queries, whether you're doing it on a second screen or on your TV or on your remote, whatever. Gestures, on the other hand, I find highly gimmicky. I don't know what the gesture is for, are there any Tom Cruise movies on TV tonight? So I think, well, actually there is one, you jump on your couch. But what do you guys think? Leslie, you've got your lab. Are you already looking at gesture controls for TV?
Well, I have the Kinect, and you're right. I mean, you kind of have to, you don't, it's like with the voice stuff on Kinect, I tell people, like, if you have to use your bad dog voice, Xbox, go, bing, bang. You have to really yell at it, and it's the same with the gestures. You have to. It's a little gimmicky so far.
I'm writing that down for bad dog voice. I like that. I like that. It's good. So gimmicky, part of the future.
I think right now it's a little, especially the gestures are a little gimmicky, and you feel foolish. I mean, you're in an empty room by yourself, and you still feel foolish.
What if Cookie Monster changed the channel for you?
What's that?
Have you guys seen the new Sesame Street Xbox Kinect thing?
I've seen pictures of it. I haven't.
Oh, it's supposed to be amazingly interactive. So I wonder if Cookie Monster would change the channel, then maybe it would get better.
I'm okay with
Probably. I mean, Brad, any comments?
Yeah, I think it's all foolish. I really do. I think that when we watch TV, and again, there are different modes that I'm in, but when I get home at night and I watch TV, I'm not about moving my body. And and I'm also...
Except for the beer.
and I'm also not interested in the TV watching or listening to me. So I'm a multitasker like any of us, but it's finger motion. And I just am not a believer in either voice or motion when it comes to television engagement.
So, by the way, I hope you guys are cool that I'm just going through a bunch of different topics. I thought that would be the fun way to handle this one. If not, well, I got the mic, so sorry. Next one, if we're going to have these gesture-controlled TVs and all this stuff going on, well, we, of course, need smart TVs. I don't think we can get away from some more smartness in TVs because it's already being built into the chipsets. It's getting to that point where it's hard to build a TV that it doesn't have some smartness inside. And again, it's one of those unquestionably industry push things. Do you guys think people want these smart TVs? Do we want apps on TVs and interfaces on TVs and all these things we can do with TVs? Are they getting better? Or do we really just want a bunch of feature TVs that can play Netflix and YouTube?
I'm with Brad. I'm with not a lot of body motion when you're watching TV. Like, the connected TV guys, they'll say to the multi-channel video provider, they'll say, have I got a deal for you? I can put your icon on the boundary of this thing that has video in the middle. And the operator says, well, I'm the video in the middle. I mean, it's just, what's smart about it? That's what I'm asking.
I love looking up at the moon when I think as well. This is great. Really nice touch, Tracy. I think smart TVs certainly have their place, and I think there's a reason that they're. I think it's something like within a couple of years. I can't remember. I'm terrible with stats. I'm not.
It's like every TV that ships that's over certain 40-some inches by the end. I think it's by the end of this year we'll have Wi-Fi or Ethernet connectivity.
So there is a place for it. I don't think. Again, I think everyone's different how they want to consume. You know, whether we want to jog around the room and be doing all our gesture controls, I'm not sure. Whether we want to be chatting to our television and talking to it, I'm not sure either. I have Siri. Do I use it? Not very often. Use it now and then. You know, I know that's not a TV, but smart TVs, I think, do have the ability to give the programmers a very direct way of getting to their viewership. And that is a potentially a positive thing. So they can get apps to the viewer without having to have a second screen. And those apps can be pretty engaging because you've got a powerful platform on the smart screen. So I'm not talking gestures now, I'm just, so, you know, I guess I'm on the fence on that one. You know, some people will want that type of stuff, some people won't. But that's kind of like everything that we're talking about, you know.
I think the challenge with smart TVs comes down to the UI and the interface, the human interface.
It's really shocking that you would think that.
I know, but the reality is that it's a big viewing piece of glass, and the plastic remote that you've given me in the past did what it did for its day. But I just believe, ideally, every smart TV would come with a nice big iPad, and in that world, you know, costs aside,
or multiple iPads,
or multiple iPads,
yeah, for everyone in the room.
For everyone in the room. That's ideal, because at that point, I don't care where the smart lies. Is the smart in the pad or is the smart behind the glass? It doesn't really matter to me. I want a sort of a great user interface, human interface experience.
So I agree with you on that, by the way. I actually think that all 10-foot UIs are terrible. I think that there's no solution for that problem, and I'm sorry to anyone in the room who's working on that stuff, but I think you're at a dead end. I think TiVo hit the apex of 10-foot UIs over 10 years ago, and I haven't seen anything actually improve upon those experiences. They're prettier, they're a little smoother, but at the end of the day, they're still the same thing. Now let's flip to another company who's pretty good at interfaces and your comments on iPads, AirPlay. How many people have tried, I'm assuming the CEO of Time Warner is not here, so I won't include him. How many people have tried AirPlay on an Apple TV with either an iPad or iPhone? Okay, has anyone here unfamiliar with the experience in general? Again, CEO of Time Warner? No. Okay, so
you should just assume that someone in this room is unfamiliar.
So if I have my iPad and I find a cool YouTube video or Netflix, I push one button and it goes to my Apple TV, and on my TV, whatever my iPad was doing is now happening on the TV. And that's not about Evernote and Dropbox, it's about videos and sometimes games. And it's a really amazingly simple experience. It's got a couple of flaws, namely all the bits come over the internet into my iPad and then over my Wi-Fi to my Apple TV. Let's assume that fixes itself and they just auto-route the bits where they're supposed to go. So cool for Apple, cool for those of us who buy Apple products. What about the rest of the industry? Is there something that's going to be able to take on AirPlay?
Yes, you said it at the very beginning, DLNA.
Oh.
CVP2, the whole CVP2.
I was on the DLNA committee. I don't think...
Well,
I don't know
current
about
events
that.
now in DLNA is there's these two profiles, I'm going to get this partially wrong because I'm doing it from my head, but CVP1 and CVP2, commercial video profile 1 and 2, that lets you do AirPlay kind of stuff where you have, it's like what cable people would call multi-room DVR, but without the hardware clients on the non-primary screens.
So you totally believe that an open standard is going to take on Apple?
I don't totally believe anything.
Okay.
You know, but this is what people are talking about on the engineering community about stuff that's happening on the home network.
Got it.
I think the surprise players here could be the game consoles. We saw last week at E3, Microsoft announced something called Smart Glass. And it was AirPlay, right? But it was any tablet device, as long as you've got an Xbox, boom, there it goes onto the television screen. And we saw from the Roku presentation this morning that we're still consuming most of our VOD via game consoles. Nintendo also announced something last week called Gamepad, which their new Wii, I think they call it the Wii U, will have this tablet that comes with it. And more people watch Netflix on a Wii than any single device out there. So the minute the game consoles have a tablet, whether in Microsoft's case it's an Android or iOS tablet, or in Nintendo's case it's their Gamepad, the minute those sort of come and we take the 100 million US households that have game consoles and we give them the ability to watch linear TV and VOD and the pad is there, I think that's a game changer.
And do you think, so here's the thing, by the way, smart glass is pretty cool, and I think the game consoles have always been called a Trojan horse in our industry. Can they eclipse, and by the way, they're doing it, the numbers are already showing it, but can they really get out of that mode where people look at them as a console, not as an entertainment device? Do you think that mindset in households will shift?
I think it'll shift slowly for moms if they're buying the device. In many homes that is the case, particularly on the Nintendo side, I think. But I think the shift has happened for new buyers of the Xbox. I think, and PlayStations. I think they're seeing them now as general purpose entertainment devices because of the online communities that have kind of grown with those devices.
All right,
I just wonder what we're doing to the word smart. Right? Smartphones meant it had an internet
smart
connection.
means confusing.
Right.
Yeah.
Smart TVs means it has an internet connection. Does smart glass mean, what does smart glass mean?
Smart means confusing and feature means easy. That's the simple way to think about it. So we're starting to run low on time. I have a few more topics, but if there's anything burning in the audience, this might be a great time. Throw a hand up, otherwise I can keep us going.
I just want one follow-up question on the game console piece, because I agree that from a functionality standpoint, it seems like the perfect little over-the-top entertainment box type of deal. But in my household and the households that I'm familiar with, it doesn't reside in the living room. And I don't play games, and my wife doesn't play games or whatever, but my son and my daughter, they have those in other rooms, but it's not the main console. How do we change that dynamic if that's to be the entertainment console?
Actually, is Sean here? Sean Alexander, are you still in the room? He's at Xbox. He could have given us some stats on living room presence. That would have been kind of cool.
I heard a stat at E3. I happened to never been to E3 before, and my engineers talked me into going to E3 with them. But the stat I heard was that even though the Xbox, for example, outsells all the other game consoles currently, if you look at the ComScore stats for game console usage, the Wii actually has triple the numbers. And the reason why is because they're in the living room. And so I think it's the kind of games, the more social, I engage with my family, that platform lives in the living room. The Xbox is in my teenage son's room.
All right, fair enough. I'm going to move us on. One more question, audience, or I'll back to the list. All right. So let's have a fun. We were just talking AirPlay. Apple. Personal opinion, is there a television set coming from Apple within the next 6 months?
Really?
What do you think?
Okay. I don't know. I mean, I'm an Apple person, and I came in kicking and screaming, and I don't really think it's as easy and intuitive as their ads would have you believe. But I got an iPhone a couple weeks ago, and I got a clip sent to me about a beekeeping documentary I'm making, and I went to play it on my phone, and it said, "Wouldn't you rather play this on your TV?" So I think it is the coolest thing ever, and if they make a TV, it'll be great, and it'll be super expensive.
So, yes.
Good, all right. Any opinion?
My answer is yes, but. So I believe that the Apple TV will be less about the display, even though they have fantastic displays, and I just got my PowerBook yesterday with the Retina display. Yeah,
awesome.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I think they'll create an incredibly expensive and beautiful display, but I don't think that's what it'll be about. I think their focus and the magic always in their innovation is that they conquer the ecosystem because they seek to control it end to end. I think the challenge, as we know with television, is you can't really control it end to end and address a mass market. And so when Steve Jobs said he hadn't cracked it, and then on his deathbed he said, "I cracked it," we're all sort of waiting to hear what it was about television he cracked. And I think in the end, it's going to be sort of the under the covers. I don't mean hardware. Let's just assume that happens. I think it's what's the business model? How do they bridge the linear television of today with their amazing VOD ecosystem and their app ecosystem? I think they will do it. I think they'll do it this year. I don't think it'll be near the threat that some might believe. The Apple punch drinkers are going to be the first to beat a trail to the store and buy them. But I think ultimately we're going to learn a lot from whatever Apple launches.
Yeah, I think just to follow up on my rather short answer, the interesting thing will be whether or not people will change their habit of how often they buy a television. If Apple do bring out a TV, are we all going to be running out, like we do at the moment, the latest MacBook comes out, oh, quick, get to the Apple store, latest iPhone, latest this, that, and the other thing. And they've managed to create this unbelievable consumerism. We all get wrapped up in it, and we all have to have the latest and greatest. It's just nuts, which, it's great and nuts all at the same time, good old capitalism and stuff. But I do think that there's a big difference with televisions, and so maybe my answer is maybe, actually, because with televisions they might bring out a screen, but who knows, maybe the Apple TV as we know it, the set-top box, which is this big, that we know it, will just be integrated a little more and switchable, but the actual screen itself will be ultra high resolution and 4K or something possibly. But it's certainly very, very exciting and interesting, and I think it will, use another idiom, put the cat amongst the pigeons.
Well, and to come back to the word death where we started, if you one of the tech blogs yesterday was like Gizmodo or Engadget, one of them it was like the 10 things that Apple's going to kill. And it was things like, and it all came out of the big keynote the other night across the street, but Google Maps, there's this whole big long list of things that Apple's going to kill, so we should be cautious about
the word kill again,
yeah,
death, kill.
Death, kill, blood.
Audience, 6 months Apple television set comes to market? Generally, yes. All right. Interesting. I've become a bit more, I was way yes for a while. Now I've kind of come back down a little.
Why?
There's, Apple's really, really good at shipping lots and lots of small things. And TVs are not small things. And I get that they can do whatever. And I believe, by the way, that they will do something. And when they do it, they'll have it perfected. But it is really counter to most of their current supply chain system, most of the way they actually do business.
iMacs are pretty big, though. And
Which one? Yeah, but
iMac.
Yeah, but they ship more of these like a day than they ship iMacs a year.
Sure.
The stats are just ridiculous.
Sure.
You can almost look at iMacs as an iPad lead gen at this point. And I have one, and it's wonderful, but they don't ship them in the quantity that they would have to be doing televisions.
But I don't think it's about the TV. I think it's about the TV experience. So
they still got to sell. They still have to sell them and move them from China to here.
They could make them exceedingly expensive, though, and an elite group will still buy them.
But Apple doesn't actually do that. This is an incredible bargain for the technology.
Yeah, that is.
So is the phone. But so is the phone. So is the MacBook Air.
Well, no, the phone compared to phones that we used to buy is much more expensive.
But compared to HTC phones or Samsung phones, it's not, and it's actually generally packs more of a wallet. Yeah, I'm just saying that I think
but
if
they've
they bring
changed
a TV,
that market as well, right?
Fair enough. I think if they bring a TV, it's moderately more expensive. If everyone else is 1,000, maybe theirs is 1,200. But part of what they do is supply chain, right? That's half their business.
Oh yeah, they're
great at
logistic.
that.
Yeah.
And that's Tim's thing. So, by the way, any massive naysayers? Apple will never do a television set. Raise your hand. Yeah, you're right, because the iPhone will never have, or the iPod will never have video, right? He said that. You guys remember that? Okay, so Apple's always a fun one. I want to move on to TV everywhere. Actually, I'm sorry, if there's another question, this is a great time. Burning question? Burning question.
It's not so much burning, but...
Make it burning.
Well,
use
Come on,
death.
Clayton.
Use death. It's an easy one.
Well, it's a little bit of a different question on a little bit of different topic. You'd mentioned ACR, and I just wanted to hear the panelists' view of that. There's a lot of hype around it, especially in this sort of environment, and wanted to see what's real and what's not real. Is this a fad? Is this something that's going to disappear? Is it just going to be integrated, or is it going to be standalone? I'm just curious what your vision on that is.
Do you want to
I
take
love
that
this
now,
guy. That was
Jeremy,
my
or not?
next topic.
Okay.
I'm dead serious. ACR. Hit it.
So it's really interesting, actually, because there's so much hype in. Do you want to take that?
No, I want you to do us a favor, because there might be some people unfamiliar with the term. Give us a 10-second definition.
Automated content recognition. So this is where the, it's where the screen basically knows what it's watching.
Perfect.
Okay. And it's interesting because it's a technology searching for a business model, in my opinion, at the moment. There's so much hype. There's so many companies out there startups, good companies. I'm not, saying that there's anything wrong with them, but we need and are partnering up on ACR within our platform. And it's a piece of the puzzle. It's a very important piece of the puzzle because it allows you to get to the second screen and sync on a TV catch-up experience. But is it in its own right kind of a... I guess I was going to say, is it in its own right a game changer? It probably is, but as a technology rather than as a concept, I suppose.
Let me bring back this gentleman's first question. I'll let either of you jump in on this. So I think that's a well-said point, that ACR is clearly a component of platforms. It's not the thing, it's part of a thing. But still goes back to the why. What is the real value of a perfectly synced experience? I'm moving to either of these two.
Well, you notice the real value of a perfectly synced experience when it's not perfectly synced.
No, but,
Like the little debate yesterday,
like,
the first screen or second screen, and you were the hybrid. I was voting hybrid because
Thank
of
you.
the two
I've
of
always
the
loved
two
you.
of them, one of them's probably not working right. I'm sorry,
but let's not talk about from an industry. I mean, everybody here wants to sell all this technology and all that. What do consumers benefit from this uber synced experience? Like if I'm watching TV, forget sports, forget reality, and a couple other news and award shows. If I'm watching House or Game of Thrones or CSI or 30 Rock, do I need my iPad to know what's on TV?
I think the problem that needs to be solved and that ACR solves in all of its forms is context and shortcut. So context means that what's happening on the screen has context to the second screen or even the primary screen. And shortcut meaning I want to take an action, I want to do a share, I want to say something. I want to be able to quickly just do that and not be distracted. Without some way to automatically recognize the content that I'm referring to, I have to go through multiple steps. I either have to say, this is the channel and this is the show and this is what I want to say, or if I do it free form, it's what we have today with Twitter. If you watch the Twitter stream at night and everyone's trending around the top shows, there's no context other than a timestamp, and a timestamp, that runs across multiple time zones. So syncing my second screen experience is really just about me being able to have context and sharing or sort of actionable content around that.
Okay, fair, well said. But I still want to get to how are we helping people? I mean, seriously, I watch 30 Rock. My iPad doesn't know that I'm watching 30 Rock, and I have a great experience.
Well, I think is Channing in the room? Channing Dawson? Well, anyway, it's people like him that are going to make this good. And Rebecca, for me, it's more like how to tell the story better. Because I'm with you. If I'm watching 30, I love that show, and I don't necessarily feel like I need to interact. But if it's a great part of the story, then I will.
I think it's fair. I think 10 minutes. All right, good. I think we're getting to this point where we think people want more interactivity than we actually need to give them. How many people here watch TV for 4 hours a day? 4 hours a day, 3. All right, so
well, is it on? Like my TV is on 4 hours a day. Not necessarily, but it's like
4 is the baseline. When you hit that big bell curve of any stat, 4 is the beginning of the bell curve for American TV watching, not on watching. And Nielsen's got its flaws. I generally believe the stats because I don't think anybody here really represents much of American TV watching. So I think we need to get past this. We could create a better experience into what are those experiences going to be? Sam, do you have any ideas on that?
Yeah, absolutely, actually. I think that it's actually a great point. I think that it depends on the content. So again, the content's king. If you're watching 30 Rock and you're watching Tina Fey do a thing and all that, that's great. And you may not want to interact with that. You may, though. You may want to interact with it. And again, it's very hard, I think, to make the viewer, this is what a viewer is. There's lots of different types of viewer. If someone's watching, I don't know, Battlestar Galactica, they may well want to be socializing or whatever, social networking thing between.
Be careful. We almost said socialism, and that's
that's completely different. I've used capitalism already. I could go through all of the different.
We like
anyway.
those.
But So with with the different content comes a different type of interaction and a different type of engagement. So we have out here, we have just some simple apps. One's a Coca-Cola app. Really, really simple. So the Coca-Cola's latest commercial is all about bears playing with a bottle, and they're throwing this bottle of Coke around. And so the really simple and easy interaction is, want to win a coupon for a free bottle of Coke or something. And you just have to guess. You pick one of 4 numbers. You interact. You pick one of 4 numbers. How many times has the bears touched the bottle? If you get it right, you win a coupon. If you don't, you don't. Period. That's it. And you're done. It was a maybe 10, 20-second interaction. Simple.
So, but the proposition is, I'm going to have a Coca-Cola app that I have to have running on my screen, which must be on while I'm watching a television.
So that's where it comes back to the aggregation and all that sort of stuff. And I think Leslie's point was spot on. I mean, how that plays out is a huge question. Huge question. Are we going to have 1 million apps every time? No, that isn't how it's eventually going to play out. Will we have to have an app because I'm watching NBC and the commercial's on NBC? Maybe. Will I have to have a Comcast app because I'm on Comcast? Maybe. Will I have to have a generic ad app? Unlikely.
But you're kind of pointing to the scenario of 1 million apps.
Yeah, it's quite possible. It's quite possible. But I think that the question.
We're first. This is our table. We're first.
Thank you. So those are very simple interactions. We've got one for the presidential race. We've got a quick poll. So PBS, quick poll. Who do you think's winning at the moment? Who would you vote for it if there's this debate going on? Who's winning the argument? Republicans, Democrats. Bang. Quick. Aggregate that, as we've said. Aggregate it. Present the aggregated results very quickly, seamlessly, and then move on and let them watch the TV again because it's about the TV. In other cases, baseball's a really good example. NASCAR's a great example, where we've got this thirst for stats and all of the what's the lap time, what's the and we've got a million different things all going on, and we love all that.
I think sports.
You love all that.
Well, yeah.
No, I think sports and reality
sorry.
are the sports, reality, and game shows are the great examples of second screen. It's like a slam dunk, and if people aren't figuring that one out. I think we should have more companies investing there than in the scripted. I just have some people who haven't asked questions yet. I'm sure you have a good one, but I'm just going to go to that lady who's been dying to ask something.
I was going to ask you from
Burning question.
coming from Sport Vision. I was going to ask you from earlier, how could we forget sports? It's a billion and billions of dollar business. And fantasy sports, millions and millions and millions. Right, so the question is, getting back to the ACR and the sync, I mean, isn't there a huge opportunity there, and why aren't we seeing more apps like Race Buddy that we saw yesterday, and what's stopping that?
I am surprised there's not more apps. Any
Talk
thoughts
to
on
that guy right there, Mr. Showtime Boxing.
Okay, you guys meet up after the thing.
Yeah, and we're showing it. In fact, we looked at it yesterday, but the Formula One app that we've got, again, simple, quick, but
actually,
it really depends on what content you've got. Going back to your actual earlier question.
I have a friend who has a fantasy football app. He says he's watching a game and his app's up, and the app gets the thing just before the TV.
Because of the HD delay.
Yeah.
It seems like this is change of topic, but we're quickly moving to cloud DVR, just to bring that up, and it touches on TV everywhere. I'm just curious, in your opinion, is a cloud DVR just going to be what we have today from a DVR standpoint, or what new features will we see when it's in the cloud? And obviously we'll be on multiple devices, but maybe you can touch on elements of cloud DVR.
I think that guy runs a cloud DVR company. That's my hunch. All right, any thoughts on the cloud DVR?
Well, I'm on the tech side. I hang out with the engine room guys, and for me, cloud DVR is not a tech issue; it's a rights issue. So that and issues of regulatory importance, I kind of tune out on.
So okay, let's ask. You guys think Aereo is going to win or lose in court? Are you guys familiar with Aereo? Yeah. Okay, win or lose?
Lose.
I got nothing.
Yeah, I'm on this fence as well. We should physically be sat on a fence.
If you think they're going to win, if you think Aereo will win in court, raise your hand. My opinion, by the way, is I think they're going to win, but it's going to take so long to get there.
Yeah, that's probably the right answer.
But my last topic actually was TV everywhere. I know there's a panel touched on this yesterday, all these stats on TV Everywhere is basically people watch TV at home on another device. I built the Slingbox. We were the first TV Everywhere thing. And what we found is pretty much people used it in the home or when they were business travel. That a worldwide phenomenon does not make. TV Everywhere overhyped or just the start of something bigger?
It's the same thing. It's a rights issue. And the reason why it's not everywhere is because of the contract negotiations that are happening between the networks and the distributors.
Do people really demand it?
Yeah, I think so. Some people do. I keep saying the same thing. It's trying to make everyone sound the same is really tough. I mean, I travel internationally quite a lot, and I love my Slingbox for that reason. You know, I can get back to my PVR. I can watch. I'm not going to mention sports again, even. I can watch something non-sports.
Let's just move right along.
Yeah.
If you have the internet, well, never mind. Any thoughts on TV Everywhere?
I think it's a peripheral feature. In other words, I think the carriers need to provide that service as far as a global phenomenon that will revolutionize what we do with television. I don't think so.
Fair enough.
And if we do have it, it's really important to start and stop where we left off as well, which is an issue we've got with. I love the cable guys, but you know, Comcast, on demand is a real. I mean, to watch 22 minutes of a show and then come back to it, 26 hours later and find that I've got to wind back 20, on my cable box is that's just.
Well, it's because the tape at the head end has got to go all the way back. All right, I want to thank you guys for a great panel and great questions from the audience. So thanks very much.